It's time to get real and give you a little bit of bad news. We'll talk about it right after this. Good evening or afternoon. It's afternoon. I'm sitting here grilling burgers. Got my grill right here. Um, no, this is an OG video. This is a Viking caveman blah 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 channel, right? I didn't go. As you guys probably don't. Again, maybe you don't realize, maybe you do realize, but I have not been live as much. I tried to be pretty consistent on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but work has gotten crazy. Life has gotten crazy, but work, has gotten crazy. As we get bigger, Jeff needs more and more help, so I'm helping out with brake cons, and I'm dispatching, and dispatching goes from feast to famine. One week I'll have 2 trucks, next week I'll have 5 trucks, and next week I'll have 10 trucks that I actually booked, not all at once, but throughout the week, different intervals, and and look, let's be real here. If you're running 100% spot market freight and you're self-dispatch, you're probably stressed out right now, especially if you're having to call brokers every single day. If you're relying 100% on load boards, you are stressed out. And it's possible that many of you are either paying your truck or paying yourself, but you're not doing both. The problem with paying only yourself is the truck not getting the money, so therefore maintenance gets neglected. Next thing you know, you blow your engine, you're out, you're done, right? Or maybe you have a paid off truck like me, like I did, and so you're not running that hard. And so you're thinking, oh, everything's going to be hunky-dory because this truck's going to last forever, and then boom, it blows up. Now you're forced to run more than you're used to, and you get burned out, or you're not great at money management because things didn't have to be so tight. But and so there's a big shock right there. And look, I saw that when I was at Lancer. I saw that all the time. You guys with paid off trucks saying, I don't move for less than blah 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 per mile, and then when their truck breaks down, they don't have the money to fix it. I was almost one of those guys. So I'm not speaking out of my butt here. I'm speaking from experience. And so, here's the thing. I was talking to my good friend CDN Freight Broker today, and he brought up a very good question. I know so many of these people have been driving for, million miles, 15, 20, 40, 30 years, They know trucking inside and out. But what is trucking? You could simplify it, and it's bringing something from point A to point B, whether it be bottled water or whether it be big, huge, tractors or a boat or maybe half of an airplane wing or maybe those 2 pallets that absolutely have to be there overnight. But what's involved in all of that? Well, that's a whole different complicated puzzle. And most people that have been driving, myself included, for a long time, you don't really know the depths of how trucking business is done. And the problem and the blessing of this particular market that we're in right now is it's teaching you quite a few lessons. Number one, you got to learn how to be efficient. And we're going back to basics here, folks. I say these things in my live feed, but it just doesn't resonate. Maybe I'm thinking about it all wrong. I don't know. But most businesses, you got to know your costs. And I talk to drivers every single day, from all walks of life, from all different companies. Like, what do you need per day? Well, I want 800. Well, I want 1,000 a day. Okay, but what do you need? What's going to allow your business to not fail? What's the bottom line you need to survive? And what happens is most people don't know that number. And they don't realize that even if you're getting 1,000 a day, what good's 1,000 a day if you need 1,500 a day? But what good is 1,000 a day if you only need 500 a day? Well, then your perspective changes. See, folks, this market that we're in right now, there's two things you're going to do. You're either going to do what you want, or you're going to do what you need. Now, the goal is what you want is what you need. In other words, you should want to know the numbers. You should want to know the exact number that you need to run per day, per mile, per week, however you calculate it. I'm not even going to get into that argument. Because right now, most people are doing what they need, not what they want. For example, when I was running my truck, I liked going from Springfield to Columbus and back. That was my jam. Could I do that right now? Well, I'd probably have to expand my universe a little bit. I'd probably have to take that high-paying load to Florida once or twice, or I might be tempted to go to Denver, or, these burgers are done, or, I would be forced to run outside my circle. And look, there was a time when my business was struggling, and you know what I had to do? I had to stay out. I had to start running 25 to 3,000 miles a week instead of my usual 11 to 14. And, I have that ability because I've done all 48 states, 47. And as a company driver, I know the country pretty good. But I like my areas. I loved Columbus. You know why? Because 70 was such an easy road. Other than the BS around Indy, you were good to go. But if I had to go beyond my normal running areas, I would. Why? Because it was what my business needed. And right now, we're in a situation in the spot market where you're going to do what you need, not what you want. And so it's up to you to determine, well, is it worth it? Well, it depends. Do you want to build relationships? Do you eventually want to get off the load boards? Do you eventually want to mix it up a little bit? Or do you want consistency? Or do you want to be constantly chasing the highest dollar without building relationships or without any kind of consistency that you can plan things such as maintenance, repair, or a truck replacement? Because the things that are associated with owning a truck are not getting any easier. Tolls are higher, labor is higher, fuel's gone down a little bit, but that still remains fairly elevated. Your tolls are higher. I think I already said that. It's just, food is higher. You might have, people don't realize that $10 a day in food is $300 a month if you're working full 30 days, right? Well, how many of you are eating at $10 a day? Now that $10 from a few years ago is now $20. So you might be $500 to $600 just in food alone, just so you can survive on the road. Have you accounted for that? And do you put a salary in? If I was a company driver and I was making, say, $1,000 a week, I wouldn't go out and buy myself a Maserati, now would I? I'm not going to go out and buy a $100,000 pickup. I'm not going to go out and buy a new boat or a new RV because my salary of $1,000 a month wouldn't support that. Well, if you don't give yourself a salary and you're only going by your deposit slips from your owner-operator shindig, then how do you know what you're actually making? How do you know what you actually can afford? And look, it's not C.H. Robinson or Coyote's responsibility to make your boat payment. Their responsibility is to move the customer for the cheapest rate they possibly can because that's what their customer wants. Just like when you go on Amazon and you pick the freight that you pick the shipping rate that you want, And if you want it there tomorrow, guess what? You're going to pay a little bit more for it. Unless you're Amazon Prime, but then you're paying a monthly fee for that. That's how logistics works in a nutshell. And right now, you got to step up to the task. And look, I've been criticized because I don't own my truck anymore, and people are like, well, easier for you to say since you're behind the desk. Well, guess what? It is easier for me to say behind the desk because from an aerial view, I see what's putting people out of business. And you know what's putting them out of business? It's not the rates, it's themselves. Because guess what? In 2017, these rates were the same. Everything else is higher, but these rates are at 2017. If not, people will argue that it's earlier than that. And there was a time where do you remember that time a year and a half or so, or 2 years ago, when $2 a mile wasn't good enough? Now you're begging for $2 a mile if you're in dry van. But see, for me and for most successful trucking companies, just looking at them out there, the ones that are still surviving, they'll tell you it's about consistency, it's about pinching pennies, and it's about staying out of the people that know what they're doing's way. And if you don't know what you're doing, this is the perfect environment to learn, if you can afford the learning curve. Just a quick recorded video. Oh, and what was the bad news? The bad news is Snorler Coffee is no more. The person hosting the site didn't want to put money into it anymore, so I'll be looking for a different platform for my coffee. But for the most part, Snorler Coffee is a thing of the past, and it's a bummer, but we'll get over it. It's not like I was the best salesperson for coffee anyways. Whatever. Thank you for the ones that did buy the coffee. You made me the number one name on that website, so that was cool. I sold the most bags, just wasn't enough to maintain the website. So when you're losing money on something, you change. How many of you are doing that? Figure it out. Don't just look at what you want, know what you need. Until the next live feed, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. Peace.